that I had more possibilities to avoid the situation. But however, I'm here presenting right now. So like as I'm my first year student, I just started my semester like 3 days ago. So I will be at some point I will be wrong. So you can just like correct me in the right way and also add some comments, and that'll be so good. So the paper I read is the first one, which is written by Lauren and McDonald, and it's, the title says that when is liability is not a liability. Like it's all about like the basic like text mining skills. I'm not sure, but however I think that it's kind of like a pioneer. I'm not sure because I thought that it's very kind of like a simple kind of like a method used during this paper for text mining. So I just want to introduce some like the skills and like things and what they use for. So most of the paper was about building a new kind of word of list. At the first moment, before the paper was published, most of the researchers had used the Harvard one, which is based on some kind of psychological or kind of general kind of like word of list. These word of lists has components, this concepts with like words like liability, which is negative, not a positive, which is like not a real positive word in finance, but however at some point it's just like telling about the structure of the finance system, what they have there. So liability is not a real negative word in finance, but however Harvard, this list says that liability is like a negative word. So in this paper it says that the Harvard one and also the other like list has some kind of misclassifications. So like this misclassification causes some kind of noise on the list. So these kind of like noise means like statistical noise, like it might be like waiting to do the rigorous process or do some kind of statistical analysis. This misclassification could cause some kind of like statistical like noise on it. So it could cause some kind of like spurious like correlations or whatever that stations as a result on it. So first of all, about the misclassification here. Like high frequency words are misclassified, which means like cause more higher amount of noise. And we could just discuss it later using a table. So they introduced a new word of list. So this new word of list like has like more kind of like words included, but however it is mostly about like reclassifying the words as negative and positive, which is like reclassifying it in financial terms, and also like making negations, inflective, more introduced in there, and also about the solutions for this classification. So actually this was the result of the paper, one of the part of the result. I just want to introduce this at the beginning because it shows the misclassification more clearly here. So as you can see here, at the Harvard one, it says a text or capital. These kind of words are negative here. So like this H4 enemies like Harvard like negative words in it with inflective words. So it's a liability is also the negative word. However, in the finest terms, like liability is not a real negative word. However, loss or these kind of words have more kind of like negative meanings in financial terms. And also, we have to focus on here that some kind of like only like 5 or 6 negative words consists more than like 26% of the out of like the total number of the negative words. So this is why they introduced a new method to explain the like text mining stuff like much more properly here. So they introduced the term weighting method here. According to the paper at the beginning, they use the terminology which is like Gibbs law. It means that high frequent a small number, like small portion, but however less frequent, but however large number. So this is kind of like a bias, like the terms weighting in the paper here. So like they introduced the term weighting method to count in a better way. So during the previous paper, they just raw count the number of the negative words, and they just text mine it, and then they just count it, and they just do the analysis. But however, here they introduce another kind of concept here, and the formula looks like this. At the first term, it's just the proportion of the words, negative words that we just use during in that document. And the second term is the the inverse, kind of like a proportion of the words from the total kind of documents. So they just normalize it, and also they just weight it in terms to explain terms much more in a better way. So like if a word like loss has like 100 counts on a single document, and like aggregate, which agrees like the document, the paper says that it only has like 5 in the documents, then the second word would have more higher impact on the document, because loss, like you can just like think about it intuitively, like if loss is used more than 100 words, when you use it once more, like it'll have like this impact on the documents. But however, if there is a single negative word which was used only 5 times, but however if we use it once more, it'll have much more higher impact on the documents. Like in economic terms, we call that what we call a diminishing margin utility and stuff. You can think in that kind of perspective.
Did you come across the term TF-IDF?
What was that?
TF-IDF?
TF-IDF.
Yeah.
Yeah. What?
Well, that, I was just looking at the paper just because you didn't mention it in the slides, but that's what they...
Yeah, TF-IDF is the label that used for the one that they use this process.
For the term weighting.
Yeah, term weighting. So the table, I will just introduce later, but however, they just compare with just the traditional proportional process, proportional ratio process, and the term weighting method process. They just compare the results in the later tell us what the results are. So I'm going to introduce it now.
So does anyone else have an intuitive explanation of how TF-IDF works? And then we go over it later in the class. It's really important.
My understanding might be still weird, but so correct me. The way I thought about it was that they looked at the occurrences of the words of the entire block of papers. So we downloaded, let's like we downloaded 1,000 papers and we have 1,000 of them. You look at the average occurrence of a certain word in each paper across the entire amount, and then say if that amount that you saw in a certain paper was more than that than expected, more than your expected amount in each individual paper, that would be a higher weight negativity or whatever you're trying to measure. Keep seeing that with all the different words that we're measuring in our dictionaries. That was my understanding of what the
So with the word the, would that be highly weighted or weighted low? Low. Why?
because it occurs commonly and you can expect to see it a lot, and so you can see it a lot in each paper. So
It occurs commonly in every document. Every document uses the word the. So what about the word apple? Okay? You guys download 10Ks. Maybe one of your 10Ks uses the word apple a lot. Does that have a high weight or a low weight for the document in which it occurs? Well, so if it's very common in one document, but it's very uncommon in all the other documents?
Other documents.
then it's very important to that document. I could summarize that document by that one word, you know. Not completely, but you know what I mean. The word Apple. I mean, we're talking about a company named Apple, and it brings a lot to your mind, right? So, for that document, Apple is a very important word just because it occurs a lot of times in that document, but very few times in other documents.
In other documents.
Yeah. So, if the word occurs in every document, then it's a word everyone uses. It may not describe any particular document at all, right? But if you find a word that occurs a lot in one document but doesn't occur a lot in other documents, then that word's important for describing that one document, right? So if I search the word Apple, Google uses a weighting algorithm similar to this, right? It'll bring up the web pages where Apple's an important word, like probably the company named Apple. If I search Rutgers, I'll get web pages where Rutgers is an important word, like Rutgers web pages.
So I just want to be clear, if I just understood your comment, I just understood this one as a marginal kind of stuff. However, you're saying that you have to compare to the counts of other documents, what are the other documents, the counts?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
You're comparing with the other documents.
Yeah, like all documents.
Other counts of the other documents.
Yeah, all the documents. So it's term frequency over inverse document frequency. So the document frequency is in the denominator.
Also, that is the way why they mentioned normalizations.
I think so. I can't hear you very well back here.
Okay, sorry.
You just need to talk about it. Anyway, that's the general kind of idea behind it. And then we're going to implement that in code later this semester. Very common technique to give words different weights. Right?
Oh, I just had one other thing. We're talking the H4N list. They did also expand the H4N list slightly. They did the H4 on the Harvard list.
Yeah.
They did expand that with some additional versions of words. It wasn't anything major, but they would take different stems of words that had the same meaning. Just because the Harvard list they were using was already an earlier version.
You mean the inflections?
Yeah, they had inflections.
Yeah, inflections.
Like
Yeah.
that. Because they also wanted to make sure that the list was updated.
Yeah. So I thought that it was sort of major kind of reclassifying or treating it data different way. However, they just reclassify it. Reclassify just as words in a group.
No, they were just adding the inflections. They were just saying they wanted to expand the list slightly. I think that was the point. They just wanted to make sure the list was a little bit more built up and cost.
Yeah, and the number increased to 4,087. Before it was like 2,005.
Yeah, which is a lot.
Yeah, this is below the word cost. Thank you.
You said Harvard word list added all the.
Well, they added inflections to the Harvard list.
Lock them down.
Yeah, just for the comparison.
Like for example, the Harvard list, they have only like accident. They add like accident, accidental, and those.
Yeah, nothing major, but it's kind of important to think about the other adjustments they're making as they're doing.
Yeah. So this is about just user stuff, the H4 and also increase and also. Sorry, this is the 10K. So they also filtered the 10K with the word countings and also so that 10K just data number of the 10K a little shrink and also as he mentioned H4N word is also little expanded because they added the inflections on it. So this is this number of words of 10K should have to be 2,000 and also MD&A has some limitations on it. So they introduced some kind of filtering process here. So 10K number of the simple 10K has little shrink. So these are the first result that they show. Actually, this paper is has some kind importance and significance because they built their own word list to to solve that misclassification. So I thought that this paper was like all about the word of list, the building the word of list. We have our word of list, which is like called FinNAC, and they think that this FinNAC is much more better than H4N to introduce, like explain the statistical process or to apply it to the statistical process. So H4N like reflections versus like FinNAC here. So when they use H4N to explain the excess return, so they analyze it and they just show this graph. But however, when they use H4N, the result has some kind of like trends on it, like and also like some kind of superior correlations on it. So the graph was not monotonic. But however, when they use the FinNAC, they had a monotonic result. So in this first graph, they are showing that the FinNAC is much more better to explain the median like filing period excess return. Actually, median filing period excess return is minus in the CRSP. Was it right? CRSP, I guess so. CRSP return. So like they use the same measure. However, it was much more better introduced when they used the FinNAC here. So FinNAC had a monotonic result. So they are saying that FinNAC is much better.
Can you talk about how they created their negative and positive word lists and go through that process?
You mean like separating the word list?
Yeah, how did they, you said they created their own word lists. Positive, there's 5 of them, I guess. So how did they do that?
Actually, like I also like went back to the appendix because like they had their internet appendix on there, and they say that we have more kind of explanations on the like appendix. But however, it was kind of like very briefly introduced there. Actually, they used the let me just go back.
And what was the data source to? Remind us.
You mean?
I mean, they got the words from somewhere. The negative, the positive.
Oh, negative data.
Abby? Yeah. I can call it anybody.
Actually, I didn't read this paper yet because I'm working on my second paper.
Hey, Yui, will you write that down? I'm just sort of. I take mental notes. Okay, anyone else who knows how they created the word list? Help out preparing? Oh,
Yeah.
gee.
So I was a little confused about this, but my understanding is that they used all the words from all the 10Ks they collected, and then they looked at those words, and now this is where I got a little confused. Did they go by hand and classify every single one of those words into one of their 6 word lists? That's what it seemed to be. That's what they did.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like they did, which seemed a little bit, which was kind of their whole point. The reason why people use the Harvard lists is because it's standardized, and that's a list that every researcher can use, and it's the same thing. So there's a consistency. But then if you go in and hand classify, you're kind of, and part of the reason is that you have that consistency, so everyone uses the same basis. But then you go in and do it, or it seems like they do it by hand in some capacity. I thought also they went through the Harvard list and removed. It seemed like they went through the Harvard list to remove things they thought were financially related, and they were kind of adjusting from there. They couldn't tell which of the approaches they were using.
Did they mention that they did it by hand or?
Yeah,
That's why it is. And usually for like the hand grading, they use like multiple people, right? That's what you do for the. So, and they didn't mention any of that, so I wasn't quite sure. They said that they got all the words from the 10Ks, but they didn't say exactly how to classify the lists.
Yeah, like they just referred to the internet appendix, but however, they also like referred their 10K like reclassifying process to the appendix. But however, like it was like only 4 pages, like simple process, like just we filtered this, like auto excluded like some of these 10K was based on each word.
I'm trying to see like how they came up with words.
I just found this section here where it says to create the word list, one strategy would be to let the data comparison determine most half of the words. This approach would allow us to tell a relatively short list of words. Limitations approach is the heterogeneity of the problem to organize going forward. If, for example, managers know there's a list of words that has significant negative impact on terms, they will then systematically avoid these words. The second strategy which we follow is to create a relatively exhaustive list of words that makes avoidance much more challenging. So I think that they were concerned about making a smaller list from the data that they were pulling, is that then people would start saying, okay, we're going to ask me the 20 words we should avoid and stop using them. Where if they create a larger list, and I think that what they ended up doing was partially from the Harvard list, they looked at was a Harvard list of what words were financially impactful, take those out, and then also say if we have other words we think we should add. They have the litigious list and some of those things that they added to the negative list because they think that was more impactful for the segment, but I'm not sure.
So it says right after that. So they take all the 10Ks from 1994 to 2008. So I don't know how many there were, but tens of thousands, right? And they look at all the words that are in at least 5% of the documents. So what does that do to eliminate words that are in fewer than 5% of the documents?
Eliminates words that are just so specific to certain documents, but they said the 5% that they were removing mostly inflection type.
So words that are very specific to documents. Sometimes when you get lists of words, like you'll get, this is a nice technique to use. You get rid of like names of companies, names of individuals, numbers, or just funny things that pop up with punctuation that you only see once. It cuts all that stuff out. So you're left with normal words. Because they're in 5%, at least 5% of the time. They went through every single one of those words and classified it as either positive, negative, litigious, what we're going to do, strong modal or weak modal. So it was just very manually intensive. Yes. That's why no one had created this list before, because it was very difficult to do. But once you do it, then it's available for everyone to use, right? And it's there, and you can update it.
So they're like most of their report was building that, like classifying those kind of words on it.
Most of their what?
Report, like they tried like the importance of this paper is building that.
The most important part of the paper is creating the lists.
Creating the lists.
Yeah.
Because I thought that their like statistical analysis process, like the regression results were very weak in some parts. So like that's kind of confused with that.
They create the lists, then they use them in some sort of a test to show that this is more applicable than other lists.
So like continue with your comments, like how do you like build a model like list out of the like total list of the words? Like I know that we have like will or like may. Yeah, sure. May will be like.
And those lists are very small.
Very small.
The modal lists. There's like 10, 15, 20
10 or
words
15.
on each list. But the positive and negative word list, which one was biggest? The negative.
Negative.
2,037.
2,337.
And 353 positive. You know how it takes a lot of muscles to frown and fewer muscles to smile? It takes lots of negative words to
Negative words.
say happiness. Be positive. Anyway, so this is like the main thing from this paper for us as we're doing our text mining research. We can use their word list. It's used all the time in fusion papers. This paper is cited a lot. The next paper uses this word list. But we can create our own word list too. And maybe we can do it in an automated way. Maybe there's other ways to create word lists other than their net.
Okay.
Depending on your word list, they might be very specific. So, for example, I have a paper that I'm working on with a student who graduated from here. We created a word list about the financial crisis. It's called our Financial Crisis Dictionary. There's 25 words, mortgage, housing, different things related to the financial crisis. And we use that. And we created that. We use it the same way they use their word list, but we had to create our own word list for our own paper. So you guys, depending on your domain, might create your own word list, right? If you do it manually, you'll have to have multiple coders. You have to agree on which words belong. If you're really rigorous, you'll send it out for outsiders to look at and see if they want to add more stuff. That's what these guys do.
So they had multiple coders.
Yes. Yeah. They didn't say it here. They had multiple coders.
Yeah. I think that's where we're at.
Oh, yeah, they did. Yeah. There's no other way to do it. There's statistics you can use to see if Cronbach's alpha, see if you guys code it the same way, the coders code the same way. All right.
Yeah, one thing I was curious was that the part of the uncertainty part, like if we use, they say that they just pick. I just saw the list of the words of the uncertainty, but most of the words.
What's a good word? What's a what?
Uncertainty. Yeah, they have a list of uncertainty, but however, when I just like look at the list there, that kind of words could be like used for just like explaining the situations or different situations, not exactly used for to just introduce the uncertainty on the situations on it. So like it was kind of like ambiguous to say that uncertainty means uncertainty word is the exact like exposing the uncertainty situations.
Okay, so this is a good point. So what are the weaknesses of this approach, right? Of using word lists. So you're saying in the uncertainty dictionary, some of those words don't always mean uncertainty.
Yeah, just depicting the like situations, or like if we say that I'm not sure that this is the exact example, but however, I could say that like it seems to have like a higher kind of like expected growth next year. But however, that seems like that word could be some kind of word that used for uncertainty, and it shows up in the uncertainty list. I'm not sure it really shows, but however, there's a lot of words that was kind of like ambiguous. So like many people who just like write down the 10K, like it is very hard to say that we are certain to have like 50% growth like next year or whatever, not 10K, like MD&A or whatever. So like that uncertainty part was kind of like very ambiguous, and I think that that word list was not kind of like depicting the situation well. So like I know that the statistical results like shows pretty good in that part, but however I think that it doesn't really explain the real practice or like real situations on it. So one part of it. Yeah.
Wasn't that also the issue with the positive lists?
Pardon?
But that was the same issue they were having with the positive lists.
Yeah,
Because the reason
yeah.
for the rationalization of the positive list not being really helpful was because you can read them really easily.
Yeah.
And so it's all context clues. If you're just looking at counts, you can't really consider context.
Yeah.
So it's also a methodology.
Also the negation part.
Right.
Yeah, negation part. I just want to switch my like, slide order a little bit.
You can, sure. That's right. So these dictionaries can completely ignore context, right? You're just looking for single words, but you're not looking at the words around them. We can fix that. We can try to mitigate that ourselves. But I'm just saying, if you just use dictionaries and you just count words, the number of times they appear, you are ignoring the words around them, which could change the meaning, like negations, or maybe they're not quite in a certain word.
So I just want to introduce how they use the negation part. So like if there is a positive word in a sentence here, like we just say that this is a positive word. They just go back to like 3 words back, and they just search the negating, like no, not, like or only, like but. So like if there's a negation word here, the preceding like 3 words, then they say that we have a negation here. So they also introduced that process here. But however, actually I talked with Ben yesterday. In Korean, like negation doesn't only come before the word. It could also go back. And also, I think the English could also happen like that. So in this paper, they just like introduced that concept, just going back to 3 words and finding the negation word. And they just like introduced as a negation. But however, I think that it'll be much more better to extend the searching area for it. So if there's a negation word in here, we could also go back like 2 words back or only 1 word back if it comes back. So we can just find much more negations parts. And also like when we are using like other like languages, I know like Taiwanese or Chinese, like they're almost same as English, but however other words could be different. So I think that going back would be much more better. And also like some negations could come like after or before the sentences. So like but however when you just use like small data, like small number of data, I think that when you just only use small number of data, there could be a lot of error, like just finding out the negations. But however, if the data goes bigger or like has like very large number of like data, I think that that error rate will be a little lower or like much more lower. How do you think so? Like I'm not sure about it.
Well, larger data sets are usually preferred.
How about negation process? Like,
well, like you said, is this in the, I was looking for this chart. Is this from?
no, I just made it.
Oh, you just made it?
Yeah, I just made it.
Did they talk about it in the paper?
The negating
Yeah.
process? Yeah, they talk about it. Yeah.
You know, I talked to Tim Lockman from this paper, and he says he doesn't know how to program. So he says, don't use the positive word list ever because the negation problem. Use the negative word list.
Negative words.
So in this class, we're going to learn how to do it. Like you said, you can use a window of words. That's the simplest way I can think of. Looking backward in English, or for words like not, never, no, can't, some contractions or whatever. So we turn a positive into a negative, but it's never been foolproof.
Yeah.
Do an additional dictionary of like specific negations to like add specific like not good into a dictionary and say when you see that pair, like look for that as well. So you actually build like a longer dictionary of phrases too.
So that's a good point. So some dictionaries that I've seen have phrases because 2 words together may be like water bottle, right? That's like not a bottle, it's not water, it's a water bottle, or whatever. Some objects or some ideas are 2 words or 3 words. So searching for 1 word doesn't identify it.
Yeah, I also thought like similar. I felt like when you have a capital, like it should has to be some kind of word following up with loss or gain. So like we could understand the tone much more better.
Yeah.
So I thought that like so I just wrote this one here. So like if there's a capital here, it's somewhere near here, there should be loss or gain. Yeah. So it'll be much more better to like connect those words and understand the meanings. If there are like 100 of those observations on the data, so then we can just understand that this firm is like suffering like some kind of capital loss, capital gain, because they are mentioning a lot of those. So I thought that it'll be much more better to like just like searching within 2 words within connections. Yeah, some like debt, like there could be some words related to debt or liabilities or capital, whatever. Like so, like I thought that it'll be much more better. But however, this one was like just using the word of list, and then like just finding out the nuance of the tone of the document. So yeah, as I just understand that they had a hard time with just building the word of list. So they talk a lot about that process because they have 2 importance on it. The first one is that they build on like like more in terms of finance, and then after they had some like term weighting method on it, so they are saying that we have some kind of like significant difference from the H4N. But however, the process, like text mining process, was a little kind of simple, I think so, and like they were just understanding the tone of it. So I think that this will be like much more better. Yep. So that was my third point on it. My first like point here is that actually they had they also analyzed MD&A, also like in 10K, but however MD&A. But however, the MD&A result it has some significance when they use the term weight method. But however, the statistical significance on the analyzing process was not that significant. Oh, I didn't add it. Sorry. Yeah, MD&A. At the MD&A, they had a better result when they used the term weighting method. So it was much more significant. So I think that like documents which is like conducted by the managements, or not the like objective like documents which are like 10K. So like when you're dealing with that, term weighting method would be much more better to use compared to the traditional ones. Also, like all of those like other statistical results says that the term weighting method is much more better and it has some significance. However, the proportional ratio was not that good at all. However, the real problem is here is that about the R square here. This is 10K one. When you see that proportional weight and also the TF-IDF weight, which is using the term weighting method, the average R square was so low, like 2.44, 2.63. So actually, like if the R square is very low, but however the p-value or the statistics mean significance, it is not the fitted variables. Like it has the variables are not really fitted on the data, so it would have some kind of scattered kind of like spots on the graph there. So I was like kind of curious, would it be just because of the spurious kind of correlations, or just showing the like this kind of statistics would not be really significant as they are shown here? So that was one of my questions here. So like they compare the H4N and also like the TF-IDF, the FINNAC, or this, but however the significance was kind of like ambiguous because the statistics show some kind of like suspicious numbers on it, very low kind of R square. So I just want to ask you about that one.
The average R squared is too low?
Yeah.
It's from spurious correlation, or?
I think that is because the omitted variables here. But however, R square was so low, so I was just curious why.
They think it's low?
They say, yeah, they mentioned that it is still very low, but however, the significance was high. We had a like high jet statistics, so they said that we have some kind of significance, and also they say that we have a better number here compared to the H4N, so we are better. But I'm not sure that is really better because the R square is so low there.
Wasn't it specifically in the proportional system, but not the TF-IDF? So when they did the TF-IDF
But however,
rating,
when you see the TF-IDF, like the significance is not that big. Like it's almost the same. Like 3.16, 3.11 here. Yeah, this is SU or Harvard. You see 10K per year. It's 3.16, 3.11. So we couldn't say that we are really like better than the H4N when the number is like a little different. So
Is that the T-score or the Z-score, the first of the number? So they're all
yeah, my understanding of it was that
with the rating?
With
with the
weighting, the graph
almost
you
the same.
showed,
Yeah.
you showed that the Harvard list did not really
Monotonic,
explain.
yeah.
But when you added the weighting, the lists performed almost exactly the same. And the weighting was doing one of their explanations.
Yeah, what the
was
graph
doing was
part.
getting
Yeah,
rid of
graph part, yeah.
those issues. So that graph shows proportionate weights, and then the TF-IDF didn't have like a graph where they show that it's saying the R squared being low. It just means it doesn't explain much.
Yeah, I also agree with that. Like the rating's better, but however, is it really better? Like comparing to H4N and the
I think it just depends. If you
Finland.
wanted to do a test without using the weighting system,
Yes.
if you wanted to pass the test and then wanted to implement weighting for some other reason, then yeah, you should be using the financial list. But if you can implement the weighting technique, then the weighting technique would be using the list without reason to want to use a different system.
Okay, yeah. But from now on, with our data, if we're using data from Edgar, the financial filings, we use the Locker McDonald list for if you want
real
to
practice.
positive,
Yeah,
negative dictionary. We don't use the Harvard
Harvard, yeah.
or other dictionaries that are out there. So thank you very much.
Good, thank you.
The first paper we prepared will make some new word lists. So second paper we apply those lists and into the market or the disclosure. So I prepared MD&A disclosure and the vulnerability continue as a going concern. The Williams paper because and this is the content. So I will talk about the background and prior literature, and then I will touch the research design and some of the research main questions. And this is the empirical research. So just to briefly look at the variable definition would be helpful, and talk about the research result and some discussions.
Hey Ben, so Abby knows all about this paper, just in case you're stuck. Okay?
Yeah. I will ask Abby if I have no idea.
Please.
And I found that some of the people came from outside of accounting, so I put some content or some background knowledge. So what is going concern in the business world? Going concern is the ability or the companies might be survive or keep continuing their operations. And what is it going concern is important. There are many aspects, but most one is it is important to the investors, because the investor buy their stocks, but after 1 year or 2 years, the company going bankrupt, their money might be disappear. So going concern is important, especially for the investors. And where the going concern is disclosed, the 10K is the filing or disclosure document on the SEC, which is and the company which is publicly traded. So and there are many types of filings, and 10K is the one of the filing which is submitted annually. So, and there are many subsections in 10K, and one of the section is MD&A, which is called Management Discussion and Analysis. So in that part, the management can contain or put everything they want, and they say it is important. So they can write on some marketing strategies or some organizational or the global, the long-term strategies. So they can write whatever they want, and some companies write some going concern part. And because I think the management think it is important for their company. And also, do you know the external auditor's report? Yes. And one of the main assumptions for the accounting or building the financial statement is basic assumption for the going concern. So the companies might be continuing their operations, and so based on those assumptions, they calculate or assess all the assets and liability and so, things like that. So if the going concern assumptions cannot meet all the the values or the numbers might be different or might be considered as differently. So if the external auditors have doubt on the going concern on that companies, besides their main opinions, they add some of their additional opinion toward the going concern. So the ordinary or public investors can find some going concern material or information on the 10K or as well as the external auditor's report.
Wait, where do you find the external auditor?
And I will talk about it a little bit later. So this is the example of 10K, and 10K has many different sections, and one of the things is management disclosure. So we can find some actual the MD&A contents by click here, and also it contains financial statement and their notes or supplementary data. So if you click here, you can find also the external auditor's report. And if some companies have some going concern opinions or information inside the external auditor's report. But in real world, CompuStat already made their summary information. So all the researchers used the CompuStat materials, and also why this study is initiated by some of the dispute or some discussion about the standard setter or some of the discussions pro and con. So the the accounting standard, the setters are decisive, so they keep changing whether they forced to disclose about the going concern opinion by the management or not. Oh, actually, in 2007, the standard setter tried to make plan that they tried to implement some new accounting standard, which demanded the management forced to disclose their assessment about their company's going concern opinion. So they tried to develop some new accounting standard, and then they stopped and they abolished their future plans. But after a few months later, they changed their the second opinion. So they go right and left and right. So many people or some in this area, people say, doubt, is it really necessary or not, or what's the benefit, or things like discussion have gone through. So, and also there are some prior literature about the going concern, and if the companies did not met the going concern, or so as a result of the going concern, the company eventually go bankrupt. So predicting the company's bankruptcy or developing the model is one of some of the topics. And so in 1968, the Altman developed some kind of model called Altman Z-score. So they measuring by using the financial variables, they developed some model to predicting the company's future bankruptcy rate or possibility. And Vivo also studied the predicting models, but as time goes, the predicting power or ability keep declining, and there are some they explain those results. One of the things is companies massage or they change their financial statement looks better, or the financial statement itself has some limitations. So there are some arguments that only using the financial variable to predicting the bankruptcy is not enough. And also there are other research to develop the predicting bankruptcy model. So who could using the auditor's going concern opinions to predicting the bankruptcy, and Chechinin is one of the initial researcher who embraced or introduced the textual content of MD&A, and And he compared his research result with the Altman Z-score, and he developed his research is a little bit better than the traditional Altman Z-score in predicting the bankruptcy ratio. But the author finds some of the more area to look further. First one is he just developed his own model and compared the Altman Z-score. So if he combined those variables in his research model as well as Altman Z-score, it might be produce much more improved models. So what happens if we just put together all the variables which is used before? And also, how about adding the result method or model into the Checheni's the model? It means the external auditors' going concern opinions. So yeah, and this is the research design, and they use the United States, the companies, the data, and 8K is the different type of filings, and which is filed or submitted irregularly. So the company might go through bankruptcy. They mandatory to file the 8K. They filed the bankruptcy, or they got into the bankruptcy situations. And this is the predicting model, which is basically use the logistic regression. So they put the dependent variables and predicting the next times the probability of going bankruptcy. So 1 is the bankrupt and 0 is just going on their business. And this is research questions. It is not specifically or explicitly on this paper, and it's not rigorous terms, so feel free just, I wrote it in some of the free way in writing the research question. So first one is the going concern opinion in the MD&A is useful for predicting the bankruptcy of the company. And second question is also tone of the MD&A, which we just covered, the positive or negative tone in the MD&A, also useful for predicting the future companies going on or survival. And third one is, and the financial variable which is used before or previous research, so
for research question 1, I guess the author wants to test whether the going concern disclosures voluntarily provided by management. I mean, the author focused on voluntary disclosure.
Yeah.
That's all.
Because MD&A there is no requirement, so management basically write what they want to write. So yeah, if they write the going concern, it is purely voluntary for under the discretion of management. So they used MD&A content. So yeah.
The thing I don't really understand is why would, if they're not required, why would management voluntarily disclose the going concern?
That's the reasonable doubt, and might be some management ethics or professional ethics. They say at least to be mentioned those things, considering this.
Most likely the litigation case.
But I wonder if they didn't mention going concern, they still immune by the litigation if things going bad, because there is no legal requirement what should write on the MD&A.
But when the litigation starts, what they usually do, they search for the whether that management already know, and then they have responsibility to describe those the financial condition somehow, so to protect their interest. This is done by it's only a legal discussion, but what I see is if it's voluntary, and if the management wants to describe this most likely due to their litigation.
So I think we can say if I am the manager and my company is in a bad situation, so I might be compared, should I disclose this going concern to reduce my litigation risk, or should I remain silent and let the other investors don't know our real situation? So might be comparing those two pro and cons, and they decided to lower their litigation.
Simply because when they prepare the financial statement, if they already know their company will be bankrupt, they have responsibility to let the market know the situation of their company. If they don't, and the investor will sue their management, and they try to find out whether they know or not. If they know, it's considered as their responsibility.
I would think that they have to do that, especially if they're trying to get financing,
Right.
correct, from a bank.
So, and to add the MD&A variable, which is more additionally or incrementally useful compared to the previous model. And next question is, also he added the external auditors, the opinion into their models, because the previous one only considered the external auditors' opinions. And external auditor's opinion is, I think, one of the main output or disclosure dealing with the company's bankruptcy or going concern. So the fifth research question is to also put the external auditor's opinion in the center and try to find out some dynamics or some relations between the other management disclosure or tone of the MD&A or things like that. So we will discover later. And usually the going concern or the auditing standards require to evaluate up to the 1 year after the financial statement date. But he expanded the time span into 2 year or the 3 year for the future. And he also tried to find out some of the effect on the capital market and the stock price. So this is the variable definition. So if companies go to bankruptcy, it goes 1 and 0, and working capital or retained earning divided by total asset and those financial variables. And one thing is the going concern by the management. So if the company or management mentioned their going concern issues in their MD&A, this value becomes 1 and the other is 0. And also the positive tone in the MD&A and negative tone in the MD&A, and which is calculated by the number of positive category word divided by the total number by using the McDonald's word list. And also negative one is calculated the same way. And only it is also some of labor-intensive research because they not all manually, but considerable part of the disclosure they see through manually to decide whether management disclosure or not. So this is some of the examples. And the company experienced losses, so the company might be able to continue. So this became one that company mentioned going concern. And so receiving the additional fee or things is very uncertain, so there are doubts on going concern. But the company mentioned going concern as well, but the last one is they just mentioning the basic assumption on their financial statement preparation procedure or things. So their financial statement is prepared based on the going concern assumptions, and this is just the standard mention. So it means the company didn't go through or mention the going concern, but they did it by manually. So this is the descriptive statistics. and the left one is the bankrupt company, and right is non-bankrupt company. And as we expected, if the company mentioned going concern, the bankrupt company is higher, and also the negative tone is higher and positive tone is lower compared to the sound or some of the prospective companies.
So GC audit, that's the audit opinion?
Yes, right.
So only 47% of bankrupts had a going concern audit opinion?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's quite low, I think. And this is not relating to the main topic, but the sales divided by total asset, which is the bankrupt company is higher than the normal company. And I think at the last moment, the company is forced to liquidate their assets, so they didn't care about the profit or margin. They just sell whatever they can sell. So I think that's the reason why the bankrupt company has higher value compared to the sound company. And he found some of the relation between the variables. So the sign of the correlation is plus, and the positive tone is negative with the bankruptcy. And the rest of things is intuitive.
So if you have a big enough data set, almost everything's significant, right? That's the trick in accounting research.
So they built the predicting model for the bankruptcy and add variables from the basic or the previous one. So the model one is the basic model, came from the Altman or Olson's model. So it is the pseudo R-square is also, there are many ways, but he used the Campbell's way, and the traditional one is have the power of explainability is 14 or 15, almost 15, and if they add the MD&A's going concern variables, only one variable came out the almost the same result, and if they add more variables, the explanatory power is increased and increased. Because that is the pseudo R-square, so it somehow penalizing the adding the variables, I guess. And if they adding the variables, it increase the predictability. And also there are some researches by using the market variable to predict the bankruptcy, because the market variable such as the stock prices reflect many other information as well as the financial information. So the base model only used the market variables to predict the bankruptcy, and he added financial variable and also textual variables further, and the power of explainability is increased. So it has some additional value or information on predicting the bankruptcy. And also the auditor's opinion on going concern is main part or some, at this moment, this is basic information which we can get. So he also added or considered the external auditor's opinion. And so if the company goes bankrupt, but the two, almost half and half, some of the companies auditors mentioned their bankruptcy opinions and the others didn't mention. And also, if the company goes bankrupt,
so some companies have 2 bankrupt years.
Sorry.
Some companies have more than 1 year of bankruptcy?
I think it's only 1 year in the sample if they go to bankruptcy. But before the filing the bankruptcy, they contained in the sample and as a non-bankrupt company.
Oh, okay, never mind, that's me. But I wonder, it said bankrupt firm years. Then you could have just said number of bankrupt firms. I know that's how it's labeled.
And also, external auditors express their opinion on the going concern, but not all the management follows the external auditor's opinion and contains some going concern opinion on their MD&A because it is one, but the going concern opinion on the management MD&A is not nearly to the one, so the going concern opinion on the MD&A and external opinions are a little bit different because I think it's voluntarily disclosure.
Actually, my question is more just a clarification, talking about like the auditor's responsibility.
Yeah.
So this is my question. When in the process is the external auditor coming in, getting that feedback, and then does the management have an opportunity to say, well, I guess we should disclose because the auditor said something?
Yeah,
Or-
because before the disclosure of external auditor's report, there are some negotiation process or exchanging the audit opinions between the external auditors and management. So management already know that the external auditors will disclose their going concern opinion in their opinion.
So that's an active decision then by management.
Yeah,
to
right.
not
Yeah.
do the same thing.
Even if
Okay.
they already know, they will go to disclosure.
Right.
So they adding the external auditors going concern opinion and only using the external auditor opinion, and it increased the power of explainability. And going concern opinion is the main part for the bankruptcy or some predicting bankruptcy. So they try to figure out the relationship between the bankruptcy and going concern opinion and other textual the variables. And I guess this model is originally some of causation process or things, but so we cannot say the government disclosure of a going concern opinion effect on the auditors might have effect, but not strong causation relationship. Anyway, these three variables have direct effect on the bankruptcy or predicting some relation, and also this one have relationship with the external auditor's opinion, and this external auditor's opinion have also relationship with the bankrupt. So they included all things, and the MD&A disclosure have some incremental information on predicting bankruptcy. And this is the span of from the 1 year to 2 or 3 years. And interesting thing is the going concern opinion is higher power for the predictability for the bankruptcy, but after 1 year, the sign itself turned upside down. So if the auditors mention going concern, but it has negative relationship after 1 year. And also this one has some statistically insignificant. And this is the time horizon, the graph, and combined model has the highest power, but interesting thing is the first year the external auditor's opinion has higher than the linguistic tone, but second year, third year the situation is opposite or some opposite rank. And he tried to also find out some capital market effect on the textual variables. So this is the descriptive abnormal return, so it is extract out the basic market trend or market changes. So non-bankrupt performs almost the zero, so it just follow the market trend, and the bankrupt firm has the negative abnormal return, so it means the price of the stock goes down.
Yeah, I think that like statistical significance, it is designed for examining the control variables or whatever the structure which is specified the variables. But however, these kind of works using positive words or negative words, it has a lot of overlapping and duplicating some kind of variables in that one category. So is it really useful to use those kind of statistical significances in this kind of works? Because you know that FinNeg is much more better than H4N, isn't it? Before programming. But however, the numbers here is over here, here.
Can I mention? Yeah. There are financial variables and the market variables, and but if we add those some positive tone or negative tone, and the model or the calculation results say it has incremental changes, so
it's overlap kind of category.
It might be overlap, but there are still parts that not overlapped.
Not overlap.
And as a pretty simple idea, if the management talk about we have a possibility, the point was left side, it needs most information. The most of the customer didn't take into account. And what they said is if you take into account that the verbal expression, if we can measure it, put it to our model, they might have more explaining powers. A little bit.
If the external auditors mentioning going concern opinion, basically the price dropped almost 2%. But interesting thing is, if the management mentioning on the going concern opinion on their MD&A, it also caused 1% the price drop for 3 days. So there might be some negative incentive for disclosing the going concern opinion, as Jamie pointed out. And so,
Can you go back to the time horizon analysis? Yeah, this one. I'm wondering, the authors, they do this in this way. They separate the samples of 1 year prior to the bankruptcy, 2 year prior, and 3 year prior. Why not they try just do a panel data analysis? Why not they just pull them in the whole sample and do a panel data? Yeah, I think this is my personal suggestion of this paper.
Right.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. There's no other doubt.
But I guess the author wants to know if the management disclosure of going concern can predict. How many they want to try to figure out how many years prior to the bankruptcy can the disclosure have the power to explain
But how about the auditors? Auditors also have so many inside information, but they only required to evaluate 1 year.
I guess they just want to evaluate year by year.
Because they limit them.
All right, let's finish up. Go ahead.
So is it necessary to implement mandatory? But the author have some cautious conclusion because it is the voluntary situations, so it might be different from the mandatory situation. And also Canada's case is Canada is mandatory for mentioning the going concern assessment, and the manager just follow the external auditor's opinion. So external auditors mentioning they mentioned, and they external don't mention, they don't mention. And the contribution is yeah, the going concern opinion is useful for predicting, and also the previous literature used small sample, but this literature used large sample, and also combined with the base model with the market variable or the financial variables, and also it promotes the linguistic analysis, and also predicting the bankruptcy prediction model and the going concern opinions. And as I mentioned, to determine or decide the audit the management mentioned or not, they did manually. So at this moment, we can do automatically or not. That's my curiosity. And also, I found mentioning going concern is some high power, but the tone of the MD&A has relatively low power compared to the going concern opinion. So might be we can improve. And also, I think the tone is very generalized, the score, so we can apply many various ways. So if we improve those assessing method, we can apply many other ways.
Question?
Yeah, I had kind of two sort of concerns about this paper. First of all, I know that they used a larger sample to try to add on to the previous literature, but there's like also a lot of accounting literature coming out now about the issuance of going concerns. So my concern was that when you look all the way back to 95, which they did, right? I think that's when they started their introduction. The use of a going concern opinion is not consistent over that whole period of time. So I think my thought was that that probably affects the results. Also, you have some sort of self-selection problem here, because only the management that is very sure that they're going to go bankrupt is going to issue a going concern opinion themselves. You saw even like 70% of them only like issued a going concern when the auditor did. Did you have any thoughts on that? Sorry.
No, I haven't thought. Yeah, but might be a trend might be changed from 95 compared to this.
I think that's why in the earlier results the professor mentioned that he was surprised that so few of the auditors caught a going concern. But I think that's why, because if you look back to 95, they probably weren't issuing a lot back then, but now there's this whole problem with over-issuing going concern.
So, there's a people can control certain financial balance from all of the companies, then it reflects the certain article. And it's in that so then we actually capture all the
Thanks, man. So, let's go on.
Everyone, I have to say, I spent like not a lot of effort, but more effort than I think many of you sitting here to figure this all out, because this is my very first Python project, so I was suffering from this. And so I'm gonna talk about how I got all the stuff. I received the email that Kima gave us, and so I kind of used this structure to finish this project. First of all, I downloaded this form IDX file from Edgar, and it contains all the TXT links of the 10K files and all the other K files like AK, blah blah, any kinds of forms,
Was that a form? Was that just for one quarter, or was it for?
For 1 quarter. Yeah. It's
Which
from
quarter?
2016 quarter 3. Yeah. And so I first this section is to extract the 10K files links and save them to and put them in a list called download list. And then I'm first going through the general steps, and then I save this list to the my desktop. This one is how I save this, and then this step is I open this file and download from this file. Okay, so now I'm going to the details. first of all, like we should create a list, and then we open the IDX file that I downloaded. The TA told me like for Python 3, when I try to open a file, I need to write with open. So in this way, I don't need to write the close file. That line. So I use with open, and then I use the for loop, like for line in IDX. If there is 10K inside, then the Python extracts those lines in the file, and then I split those files, the lines. So I use this function split, and because I want to split them like by lines, so I don't put anything inside, just
So right now, there's a space between all the different parts, or a tab or something like that?
Yeah, you should have, but wait, why there's...
No, that's your list that you printed out. But in the IDX file, it has a bunch of lines. There's a space. So there's spaces.
Yeah.
So
And
that
then,
works.
yeah, in this new list, for the item in this new list that I just split, if there is txt inside, I just extract them. So now this new list is very clean, like it just contains the links that I want. But as you can see, it starts from Edgar. So previously it has HTTP blah 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 until I will show you later when I create the base URL. So I just put the items that I extracted to the download list. So I use the append function, and then I print my list, and it shows here.
Why did you make a
String? Yeah,
Why?
I will talk about it later. Because when I was creating the file, I need to put the information in those files, but it can only put string type of data in there, so I string them.
Oh, so download this string is still a list? Or is it a string?
This download list is a list, but when I
No, but the download this string
yeah, it's a string.
is just a string, right?
Yeah.
Just one string. You split it again.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Then I wanna save this list to my desktop. So I just go to the operating system and create a path. And so now I create it says save path. It is the place that I wanna save on my desktop. And I create a name of my file. I call it download list. And I just combine them two, and you can see this path is here, the name of the file, and I wanna add whatever format on it, and I just go through the operating system, go through this path, and put this file into my desk. And so now on my desk there is this file called download list, and then I need to put information in this file. So I first open this file and I write information in it. And what do I write? I write this download list, the string that I just created, and then I close this file. So this whole step, I save the information that I will use later. Because this information, as you can see, it is in a when I go to my desktop and open this txt file, it has this brackets, the code signs, and the spaces that I don't want. So I just manually delete the big bracket, and I find and replace the code signs into
Manually.
I try to, because I was working with the TA and we are thinking about how to do this, so we just manually make some changes to this txt file. Okay.
Professor, is there any way that you can create temporary file for that list and then just like terminate it after the process? As a permanent file.
Yeah. You mean you just want to work with it in memory?
Yeah, I don't want to save
You don't want to save it. Yeah, you don't have to save it. I mean, you could have just worked. You could have just worked from the list. You just keep it how it was. I mean, I think the step of creating a download list. I did that. I did that once because I had like to download 50,000 files. So it took me days to download off of the website. So I saved it, and I saved it as an actual file. So it's 1,000 files. You don't have to do that, but it's okay.
So what should we do if we just create a temporary, like, don't use it? Just add.
Well, I mean, you have the variable up there already in the download list. It exists, right? So you can use your download list and access each item in the list one at a time as you're downloading from Edgar, right? I mean, I don't want to like stop you though. I want you to tell us what you did, because as long as it works, that's fine. We're not building code for a production environment that we're gonna support, we're gonna sell. We're just doing it to get the data for our research. That's my requirement for you guys, not to be perfect coders. So if you had to go in, find and replace, that's fine. You know, in the real world, it's fine. I just make fun of you because, you know, if you say the word manual, then it's like that's a bad word in this class. But it's okay.
I put a little remark here, like then I open the downloading file on my desktop and manually deleting the things that I don't want, then I run the following.
Most likely, you could look at other people's code in this class and find other ways to do it, right? There's 12 of us, there's probably 6 different ways. You know, if you guys work together, then there's different ways to do the same thing. But right now, let's just keep going and see what you do.
Okay. At first, I didn't put the import time there. I add this one here because when I was running this one, it says timeout. So we search this problem in Google, and it says we should put import time here. So I add this when I almost finish this code. So that one is just for to prevent this kind of problem. And then I create a base URL. This one is the first part of the links that is missed in this in the txt. Yeah, just the first part. Like we need to add the HTTP in front of that, then we can download the files. Okay. Then I open the file that I just created, and I read the lines from it and split them by the comma. Because as we can see previously, there's comma between each txt links. And actually the very following, like I used almost the same with Kevin's email. So
It's okay.
yeah, but so some of them I don't really understand why, but it works.
Oh, okay. Let's go through line by line.
Uh-huh.
Where are you confused?
Oh.
Where where are you now? You're at the for loop, for form and formless?
Yeah. Now we're in the for loop. Okay. So
So your form list is your list of 10K files, right?
yeah. Wait. Let me see. Okay. Because here I created a form list by splitting the txt links. Here. Wait. Let me see. I will explain from here, okay? Like here, I wanna open the links that I wanna download the files from. So this is the request that is required by Python 3. So we should use this module called URL live, and I open this link by adding the base URL and the each txt links that we just saw. So if we add them together, it's a complete link that we can download the files from. So we open it and we can download them, and we put them into this onto my desk. But here is why we create this form count. Like we create this because we need this to because this one means every time you run this for one time, and it will
Increment by
keep
one.
going. Yeah, I don't know how to explain this because my understanding is not very good. About here,
We have this form count equal to 0. So first time through the loop, it'll be equal to 1. Next time, it'll go up 1. So that means every new file you download, it goes up 1. So you're counting the number of files you're downloading. Like you go through 1,000 times, this will equal 1,000 because it goes plus 1. And then we want to print out the form count and the list of the length of your list, which is 6,680. That's how many files you've been to download. So you want to. It's nice to keep track of your status, especially when you're downloading a lot, because you don't really know if your code is working, unless you have some sort of status bar or something. So every file downloads, it'll print this out. Downloading. Now, this %D here is a placeholder for a number, like a digit. Okay? A number. So if you do it like it's a little trick in Python, right? So downloading, maybe other languages too. Downloading %D. If we have this, it means we're going to define it later, which is the first one, form count. So this will download form count. It'll print out downloading form count of the second one, form list length. So this is just the syntax for doing that. You can do if you want to print a string variable, you put %s and it prints a string variable. But the D, because it's a number. Okay. And then so you print it out, you put the % sign and the two variables you want to have in your string. Yeah.
I tried to use your code for that line as well, the downloading %D. But how did you get it? Abby, how did you get it to work? Because I had to change it to like the brackets because of you use Python 2 and I think Jupyter is Python 3.
Well,
so that wasn't working for me.
Well, I think did you put in this parentheses?
Yeah, it just wasn't working.
It worked for you, but not for you. Anyone else have problems?
I work with me too.
Oh.
Did work?
Yeah.
Good. So just go on and look at see if there's a difference between your code and.
Yeah, it's just the syntax for Python 2, there was no parentheses after %.
Yeah, there's just
that's a big
this
thing.
there's yeah. Okay. So do you understand how that works now? You understand how it works?
Yeah.
Oh, good. So are you done? So then you, what did you do? You print that out, and then when you wrote the response, which is the text file, you wrote it to file.
Yeah, it's okay.
Is that right? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
It works. that
It works.
that matters.
Wait a minute. What? Desktop percentage S form count as F. So the names of your files are
It's
just
just 1,
numbers.
2, 3. Yeah.
Okay, just curious, because what else might you want to put in your file name instead of just a number? I'll let you guys do first.
Yeah, I try to find the name of the firm, but on the links that I extracted, I cannot find the how to say the information that can be used as firm name. So I just
So,
do the in
It's actually. Let me open up an IDX file. Okay. Let's open up yours. What was it? Oh, I don't have it. So all the information is in this file. Right?
Oh, because I deleted all the other information
Yeah.
except the TXT.
Right, but you could have saved it somewhere.
Yeah, I couldn't say.
Yeah.
I may try later.
Yeah. So mine, I think the code I sent you ends up using some of this information. The other information. All right. You had a comment?
No, it's just the other thing I put in there was a break. So I only wanted to download 1,000 files. I didn't want 6,000 files.
So you only want to download 1,000.
Yeah.
So what you can do is for form and form list, you could put like 0 to 999, just like that.
I also had I did an if test that just said if the form count is 1,000, then print. Then
Okay,
it's
if the
not
form
print.
counts 1,000, exit.
Just get out.
Yeah. Yeah, so different tricks. Could you thank the TAs. Thank you guys. Did anyone enroll you? Just curious. Pretty soon. Or did anyone approach you?
I just try to send a data, but
Just curious. I think it's just you guys. Thanks for
yeah,
helping.
but I don't send my mail for everyone. I have to share my mail.
Yeah. If you don't want to share your email, that's fine.
No. No, I have to share. I forgot to share the first day. I asked for Ian sent the mail list, my mail for my phone.
So for these assignments, I like that you guys can work together today, but just don't. I mean, it's for your own good. Just practice doing it on your own. At least make sure you understand what's happening. Okay. All right. So
I have a comment. So most of the question I will receive is errors, right, and bugs. So in your learning of programming, one important step is to learn how to debug and how to just make your code work. So every time you hit an error, or every time you see something is not working, try to put it in the Google and search for that. There will always be answer there. If you go through that process, it will be hard and it will be terrible at the first time. You'll spend like 1 hour just figuring out how this line will work, but later it will get smooth. So after you do this for 20 or 30 times, you know how that could work, and then you know the logic behind them are almost the same. So just go through the first terrible period, and then you'll experience much fluent coding experience.
Yeah, and in order to make that work, you have to start on the assignments earlier. Because if it's the last day and you want to make sure you get it done, and then you want to use the TA's time, I don't know what happened this last time. I'm just saying in the future. Just try to do it as early as possible so that you can get through this terrible time. Was it terrible?
Well, I mean, for me, when I first start coding, I figured out 3 days like how to install library, just from pip install. So you know, for now, I just use 10 seconds to install a library, but at first I spent 3 4 days on learning that.
My reflection was, this is regularly new. So, for example, I play soccer and every time I step into the ring, the coach said, shoot the puck. I'm like, what is the puck?
Oh, yeah.
It feels like that.
Oh, hockey or soccer?
No, I'm just saying, transforming from soccer to hockey.
Oh, from soccer to hockey.
First message, shoot the puck. I'm like,
It's difficult. It's a new language, okay? It's like learning a foreign language for a lot of you. And it's supposed to be hard. So if you had trouble, okay, don't give up. It's only the first week of class. So get through this assignment. Try to look at other people's code and understand it. Abby's code works, except for one part where she has to manually delete commas or brackets and stuff like that. All right, so new assignment. Any questions about this assignment? So the only thing I would tell Abby is to try and go back and redo it without the manual part. Or so who tried to actually open one of these files? Maybe. Was it nice HTML? I mean, click on it. What did it look like? Total disaster. Because these files are mostly HTML files generated by some software, and they're not like clean or neat at all. They look nice in HTML form. If you change the extension to HTML and then you load it up in Firefox or Chrome, it'll be your nice HTML file. But as it is now, it's a text file. If you search for like the MD&A, it's going to be impossible to find it. It's just a big mess. So the next step in I don't know if this will work. So I think you're going to have a lot of errors. So you need to do 2 things. So the next step is cleaning the files up. Okay? So we can extract text from them, all right? So you need to do that. So there's a nice library that you need to download and install somehow. You guys have to figure it out, okay? Maybe you can use pip install. What do you use in Anaconda to install external libraries?
Conda install or pip install?
Conda install or pip install?
Try Conda install first.
You do it in here in this environment.
You can open terminal.
Open a terminal. You mean with command?
Yeah. Maybe the desktop page. Open terminal. Go there in the.
So for a DC.
The first tab.
CMD. Is that what you
Yeah,
mean?
you can try this. Well, try to.
Oh, what's the other one?
In the first tab.
First tab.
Oh,
here.
For that one. No, in the first tab. In the code, the group notebook.
This tab you're talking about?
No. The first tab. Then
Hey, come here. I see too many tabs.
yeah, but is it the same way it's the same you were talking about.
So, there's this thing called HTML to text. One on GitHub. Now, this guy who created HTML to text is committed suicide a few years ago. He's very famous. He went to like MIT or something like that, and their network and tried to download all of JSTOR, like academic articles, and release them to the public because he felt that academic research should be available to everyone for free. Yeah, he's really famous for other things that he did. He created some, I can't recall off the top of my head. He created a lot of stuff. Anyway, he got in trouble and I guess he committed suicide. But his work continues on. There are a lot of collaborators and they created this HTML to text, which is just a nice way of converting your terrible HTML documents you downloaded to clean text. Now, I've used this module. It generates errors. So, what did I do? I kept track of the errors. So, I didn't want my program to just break. Okay? So, what you need to do this week is take your files, use HTML to text, and it's very simple once you get it downloaded and installed. It's like one line of code, maybe three. You have to use HTML to text and convert your text files to a different type. Save them as something like clean. That's right. I create a new folder called clean, and I save my files in a clean folder. If there's an error in your program, or if there's an error in the conversion process, it might stop your program. So what you have to do is figure out how to use error handling in Python. So every programming language has some sort of error handling. If there's an error, what do you want to happen? Do you want your program to break? That's the default. Or do you want, maybe I want to write down the name of the file where there was an error in some separate place, and then continue to the next file. So that's what I want you to do with your error handling. So error handling, I'm not going to teach you error handling, but I'll tell you what it's called. Listen. I don't have to tell you what it's called. Python error handling. See? How easy. Handling exceptions. Let's go to this one. There you go. Try except. So all you do is you put your code inside of a try except block. Maybe you know the name of the error you're looking for. Maybe you don't. If you don't, you just put nothing here. So all you do is you put your code in this block. Try to do this. And if there's an error, then do something. Print something. Use a statement like continue or pass, I don't know, which just basically ignores the error. It goes on to the next thing. Okay? So you have to use text, error handling, using try except blocks, and then also keep track of errors. Okay, so if a file doesn't convert properly, keep track of the file so that we know, so that we can, I don't know, we can figure out why it didn't convert. Or maybe we just don't use those one in our data. Hopefully not. Hopefully we don't have this. All right, any questions?
So we're just converting these files into a cleaned up file that's easier to read and also track.
Yeah, that's the first part. I haven't said the second part. Okay. So the second part has to do with a real simple task once you clean the files. So let's first, I'm going to give you guys an assignment in class. Okay. So have you guys heard about stemming and lemmatization? So I heard someone say stemming. You did, right? You said stemming? Someone did in their presentation talked about stemming. Did you hear someone talk about stemming? Did you? No. Remember if you have words like, well, who said that the Harvard Dictionary expanded, right? Yeah. By coming up with different permutations of the same word. Like, if you take a word like walk. Okay. Walks. Walked. Walking. Walker. Any other walk words? Yeah. Now, let's say I want to count how many times the word walk appears. And I want to create a dictionary. I mean, do I want to be messing around with writing a dictionary, my own dictionary for walking? And I have to come up with every permutation of the word walk? It's a big hassle, right? What you can do is you can pre-process the text. You can stem the words. So stemming is a mechanical process. Stem. So what's the stem of walk?
Walk.
It's walk for all of them. So we only need our dictionary to count to find the word walk. And but what you do is you transform the text beforehand so that the text only has stems in it. So you don't have to worry about these parts. So NLTK, Natural Language Toolkit, it's already installed, or it's already part of your Python package. Came with Anaconda and NLTK. It has a stemmer called the Porter stemmer. Very common. And it just has rules for eliminating these suffixes, these last parts of words. So we just remain with the stem. Well, some words aren't that nice. And we can think of a word that kind of changes quite a bit when it goes from present tense to past tense. Like run or ran. Maybe it's changed. What else? There's better words. Or is. Is. Word, yeah. I am, you are, he, she, it is, was. Okay. So another technique instead of stemming is called lemmatization. So, as I understand this, lemmatization is less kind of rule-based, and it'll transform a word to its root. So ran can become run, or is could become be, something like that. Okay, so it's very similar to stemming, but it'll transform words to a root without just chopping off the end. Sometimes when you chop off the end, funny things happen, and it doesn't quite work, right? So there's lemmatization as well. So both of these techniques are used to convert words to a root or base form. So your assignment in class is to use Google to figure out, there's just like 2 lines of code, how to use a Porter stemmer and a lemmatization. So you can do that right now. It's in NLTK, so just Google, NLTK, stemming, whatever. Find some code, use it right now in your Anaconda, and get it working. Andrea, you don't have Anaconda installed, or you do?
No, I don't.
Everyone does now? And then come and demonstrate for the rest of us when you figure it out. But let's see, which words do I want you to have? Let me see which words. write a sentence on the board, okay, and you're going to stem the whole sentence and lematize the whole sentence and look at how it works differently. Okay. Right now, you don't have to install HTML text. You shouldn't have to install it. I don't know what you guys are doing. Just figure out how to use NLTK, stemming, and lemmatization.
Just have to put
documentation on 2K6 was type on 3.5, not 3.6. Are we on 3.6?
You just have for Chrome and then take until you got March.
Yeah, I mean, I ran their like test script, the one they had on their documentation for the LTK website, as like a test for how to tokenize sentences, and it won't run until there's an error unless you.
So the Porter standard didn't import?
I don't know what it is. Like I said, I just tried to run some like a base thing in a UK site just to like test the package. And then it won't even tokenize.
I don't know, it worked for me. I didn't change it. I don't think I did.
Maybe the first time in FK they had to run it, and I think that's
So this doesn't work for you guys?
It's on your computer, right?
Yeah, right. I did have a great song. Did it work for you? Just like this?
Took out all the IMGs.
No, but the code worked. It didn't break.
Yeah.
Oh, you ran it on the whole thing. You ran it on. Did you do word by word or the whole sentence?
All the
Oh yeah,
drivers.
this. Want to do it? Bring it up. Well, yeah, bring it up and then do it on my screen. This doesn't work for you, Mike?
No, it's still trying to do this other thing.
Oh, is it still downloading?
Yeah.
Yeah, so NLTK has like a bunch of documents that it uses to build its, run its tools. I didn't think this required those. I do to do lemmatization? What do I import something else? Anyone figure it out? Need help, guys. Stemmer and land capture instead of border. It stems differently. All these stemmers. Right. Word there. So here's your assignment. So you have to transform the files, clean them up, and then I want you to go get the negative dictionary from Lockwood McDonald, and count, get a negativity score or a negativity count of words for each document. So one number per document. So just count how many negative words there are in each document. Okay. Oh, also, you should give me the word count. And I also want you to build a CSV file. Now, so your result should be a CSV file, like one column, the document name. Okay. Then the name of your document. Then word count. And then negative word count of negative words. Okay. So CSV file. CSV files are super easy. You can do that last. First, you need to clean up your files. Now, you only have to do this for the files that have no errors. If you have an error converting a file to plain text, then just ignore it. Just use the clean files that work. Okay. Any questions about the homework assignment? So you'll turn in, I want you to do what Eve did. Follow Eve's lead. That's going to be a common refrain. So, in the week 3 folder, I call it last time?
Code submission.
Coding or just code?
Code.
Code assignment? Whatever.
Just code.
Just code?
Yeah.
Okay.
Capital C.
And for the other one, presentations, right?
Okay.
With that?
Yeah. Maybe submissions.
You guys get it. I removed it. I meant to rename it. Okay. In the code folder, create a folder for your submission. Okay. And also, you'll need 3 files: the HTML file, the Jupyter Notebook file, and the CSV file. Probably after you execute it, so I can see the output easily. And the HTML after you've executed it. Alright, who's had problems? Now. So. Yeah, this seems. Oh, wait, you need more columns than just this. Because you need negative count, you need 3 negative counts. So 1, I'm going to extend it. You need negative, like a raw, so raw. You need negative lemmatization and negative with stemming. Okay? You need 3 counts. Now, the trick is, some tricks you need to think about. You have to stem the dictionary first. You have to stem everything. Stem the dictionary. Otherwise, those stems won't match up with stems from your documents. You have to stem the dictionary too. You'd have to, therefore, lemmatize the dictionary too, right? Before counting the lemmas, we call lemmas, in the Word documents. So, another thing is case. So case matters. When you download the Locker-McDonald dictionary, everything is uppercase. So those don't, the whole word is uppercase, not just the first letter. So how do you match that to a regular word? Well, what I do is I lowercase everything, and then I match words together. But they uppercase everything. It's the same effect. Just do what I do. Okay? So lowercase everything. One line of code. Less than a line if you do it while you do something else. lowercase everything. Stem the dictionaries before you're stemming the document. Also stem the dictionary. Make sense? I'm so hungry right now. All I ate was a banana this week. Banana. Because I felt like I ate too much last night. Last night, I made my own pumpkin spice milkshake. And I gave it to my wife and she said, gross, this tastes just like Libby's pumpkin juice. Because I use too much Libby's. You guys know what that is? They have that in Brazil. Maybe they have something else. It's like pumpkin pulp in a can. They use it to make pumpkin pie. Most of you don't eat that stuff. It's not good for you? What's wrong with it?
It's like mostly preservatives and sugar.
Oh, yum.
I didn't say it would taste good, I just said probably not good for you.
Anyone having trouble getting the lematizer and stemmer to work? You didn't have trouble? You want to look at my code again?
Lematizer. I think some system environment you have to run. It has to go have to run an
download parentheses, like open close parentheses, and then some people
Okay.
I wanna look
It's
at
already
the code.
started.
Well, you do want to look at
the first time.
If you had problems running the code, you need to run the NLTK.download open close parentheses.
Yeah.
That'll download some of the things you need. Apparently, some of you don't have to do that. So. All right, then if you're done, then I'm done. So, you guys can go. Jamie, you still want to help with code?
I'm gonna try to figure it out this weekend, maybe early next week.
Try it.
Huh?
You mean on the last assignment?
Yeah.
There's a bunch of samples from Melody classmates. So
Yeah,
that should
that's
help.
what I want to try.
And as soon as you're done with the assignment, upload it to the Google Drive, and you might help someone out. Everyone has access to Google Drive, except for you. You want me to add you right now? Professor, you want me to add you?